Wake up, Toronto, and happy belated New Year. This is our first show of 2023, and can you believe we're in season 4? Like, holy smokes, that is amazing. And I never, thought I would still be interested in creating content this long for Wake Up Toronto, but it was seriously an idea that was in my head for so many years before I finally decided, hey, why not write it out? And for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time to this show, there's a little fun story behind it. So Wake Up Toronto was inspired by a television series from the late 80s, early 90s that is very nostalgic and ended up getting rebooted 30 years later for 5 seasons. And if you haven't guessed it, it was called Full House. And there was a show within Full House that was hosted by the fictitious characters Danny Tanner and Rebecca Donaldson called Wake Up San Francisco. And I really admired them, and they were a huge inspiration why I got into pursuing a career in journalism in the first place. And so when things came full circle, the title of the show, it was a no-brainer. I called it Wake Up Toronto. So here we are. And, I'm still seriously in love with it since the day I launched it. And I'm excited to see what kind of fun stuff I can venture into. I've already invited guests to tell their story. I've done some breaking news, quote-related things, advice giving, although I'm not a pro, and pretty much I lay out some of my personal life and the things I've been through, and hope it's been relevant to your lives. And I've definitely heard some feedback from you guys, and you've shared some of your experiences with me, so I'm very grateful to be able to communicate with you guys on that level through DMs or emails. It's been a great chat so far, and I thought, why not, turn the tables a bit and do more of that. So I want my viewers to get even more involved with the conversation and let me know what you want to see next. So details on how to reach me is available in the YouTube description below. Anyway, how has the winter been so far? Can you remember the first intense snowfall of the season here in Ontario? If you had the pleasure to commute to work or run errands and even drop off your kids to school, it was madness. And not in the best sense, but I get palpitations whenever I'm driving in that kind of weather and the conditions are that bad. I'm a pretty careful driver. It's just you don't know what to expect when you're out on the road like that, and who'd be joining you. Somebody from the back could just hit your car and it would just cause a domino effect, like a car pileup. And I think we did have one that was 100 vehicles or 300, something like that. And just hearing that freaked me out. We're pretty good out here in Toronto with cleaning up the snow and everything. We always have plows going and salt being, thrown, but it's just getting worse and worse as the years are going by, and the storms are pretty bad. And I think, the weather sets the mood for the remainder of the day. I mean, if it's great, you're just happier, if there's sunshine, but it also has to be the perfect amount. I don't know, I'm probably thinking too much into this, but it's the truth. Now that Christmas is done, I don't think we want another winter wonderland being extended. I think it's great to be hopeful and look towards spring. I mean, some people like to start decorating inside the house so they get that vibe going. Although it doesn't match what's going on outside, you still have that ambiance. Speaking of that bad weather, last week, what the heck? It was minus 30 temperatures, and it was something else. The sun was shining outside, but the moment you went there, even the layers that you had on, that cold would hit your face, and it would literally feel like your fingers were about to fall off. For some reason, it's the luck that I have. I had to do groceries that same day, and there was an extreme cold weather warning in effect. And so I walked to my car and I quickly, tried to start it, and it didn't work. I did it one more time. So on the second try, it turned on. And so I sat there for a good 10 minutes and it wasn't warming up. So I was like, forget it. I gotta drive. I'd ordered my groceries online and I just had to pick it up. I wasn't about to go shopping and all that jazz. But 30 minutes later, after I'd picked up my groceries and got back home, is when the car was getting to a pretty warm temperature. But I didn't go out after that. This morning was also quite chilly when my husband and I woke up. The first thing was we checked our phones for the temperature, and it was around like -5. Although the house was nice and cozy, we were super reluctant on opening the front door and getting that first whiff of that cold. But either way, my husband had to head in person to the office today while I got to stay warm and work from home. And I did, though, make sure he was bundled up with all the necessary gear. Like, you got your long johns and sweaters, his gloves, a jacket, scarf, and earmuffs. Oh, and like fuzzy, thick socks. I'm such a great wife, right? I think about him so much. But seriously, cold hits different downtown Toronto, especially if you're situated by the water. I do not miss those days of university, of having to take the bus to the RT and then the subway from the green line to the yellow. Ugh, it was a nightmare. Like, honestly, the hours of travel on a regular day was like about an hour and a half one way, but snowstorms were the worst because it increased to like 3 to 4 hours just to get downtown or to get home. And who could forget, like, sometimes certain stations, the trains are out of service, and so you have to take shuttles, and the lineups are crazy, and you had to be slightly aggressive so other passengers wouldn't push in front of you. Like, how many of my Torontonians can relate? Sorry to discourage the winter lovers. I prefer, looking at the snow from inside, observing the gorgeous views, and being covered in blankets, drinking hot beverages. I think that is definitely something that I enjoy, just not being out there. If you were following my last broadcast, which I released as an end of the year wrap up kind of thing, it was highlighting much of 2022, and it was a detailed account of what happened in my life at that time and how that year is now history. It did set in motion more determination for me to make 2023 better. So first things first, if you didn't get a chance to hear that one, it's the December 31st broadcast. I was just pausing this one, going into a new window, hearing that one out, and then coming back because this next segment is kind of connected to that one. So anyways, this year I'm trying to refresh content on my channels, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, just kind of changing everything. Like, tech evolves day by day, right? Like, now AI is this huge thing that people are so much absorbed in. So I think it's nice to also change along with it and try new methods. But also, I love to learn. So if I'm not learning on a daily basis and evolving, what am I really doing with my life? So that's really similar to humans, right? Like, we change every day. Like, we gain new interests or ideas, and we do the whole out with the old and in with the new kind of attitude, right? So that's the type of mindset I have with 2023 and the new adventures I'm about to go on and the exciting things that I'm going to learn. And I kind of want to have you guys join me on that journey. In other good news, after applying to more jobs, I can proudly say I finally landed one in my field, literally a month from my last broadcast of saying how freelancing sucked because it wasn't helping financially. And again, if you have gone back and heard that last broadcast, this is all going to make sense now. But guys, it's been a long 6 years after post-secondary, and along the while I've dipped my feet in all kinds of similar roles to see if the saying was true: shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. And while that is such a good outlook to have a plan B, for me, a plan A was always the end goal. I couldn't really settle for plan B, even though, the rest of the world was telling me that, wake up, this is not going to ever happen for you. And so they told me I needed to fall back on something that was more realistic to pay the bills, and that I did spend 6 years of my time trying it out and it wasn't fruitful. And when I say the world, was telling me this, I do mean like my colleagues and friends and some family members even. So it's granted my field in particular is super difficult to get into compared to the ones that are in demand right now. It's fairly competitive, and it's true, if you know someone or have connections with highly influential people in the industry, you have the best luck of making it. As a minority woman, and not being that privileged, it has been that extra layer of difficulty with me getting noticed for my work or being given that chance. I won't lie, there were frequent days where I would just sit alone and bawl my eyes out. I would blame myself for choosing to pursue something that obviously would never happen now. And to be real, guys, it's easy to feel sorry for ourselves, as it is much harder to find the courage and not believe that something you love so much was over, that it was the end. Faith, I gotta say, was a huge factor in my life, through good and bad times, of course, and somehow my gut always told me that this isn't the reality that will be my forever. So I kept up the chase. And an employer who runs a very successful digital news business gave me that chance, that golden ticket. It was my first interview of 2023, and I was nervous, but the position was definitely the door I needed that would open all kinds of possibilities for my future self. And although all of you guys know I have the most positive nature, I still was prepared for an answer of no. Because that was the one answer I was used to every time I applied for job openings in my field. So I guess you could say rejection was something that I know would hurt, but I anticipated it more than a yes. Does that make sense? So the interview was lovely. I was prepared with questions. I met part of the team, and so far, so good, right? Then began the waiting game, as does most jobs, right? A week went by and no answer. But then just as I was moving forward with more job searches, I checked my email, and there it was, an offer letter. I had to pause for a moment, and when I look back at the clock, literally it was 30 minutes later, I think I was in disbelief, or maybe I was thinking I was the wrong person selected. You second guess what's happening to you in that moment. But since I didn't get a response back that I was the wrong candidate, I replied back and we began the hiring process and training. So fast forward 3 weeks, so far I'm in the element, learning so much, and I'm happy. I feel different, and sometimes it's like dreamlike, like this cannot really be happening. I truly don't know where this experience will take me, but I'm absolutely grateful and thankful that all it took was one yes to change the course of my future. So this is a pretty short broadcast today, but I do want it to be meaningful. So for those of you who are listening, if you haven't heard from anyone that you're doing an amazing job, let me be the one to tell you that you are. Life isn't easy for all, and that shouldn't be a deterrent for you to give up. When things do come easy, does it feel worthwhile? What about the obstacles and hardships along the way? Doesn't that make you stronger mentally and physically? So when you do get to the top of your goals, nothing can tear you down. No words, no taunting, no influence could waver you. I want you to know nothing is ever too late. If there is something you have stopped making an effort for and placed it high on a shelf just to forget about it, I say go back, pick it up, and start again. This life is yours to take control of, to protect, to conquer your hopes and dreams. It isn't selfish at all. If you're in progress of those goals, honey, let it manifest, stick to it, keep on staying focused, and one day you'll hear the word yes. And that word will change your life forever in the most beautiful way possible. That's it for today's segment, guys. Keep shining, superstars. Much love always from me to you. I'm out.